Thank you, Lloyd.
Thanks, Liesel, and thanks to my group. I think we had some good discussion. I think there was certainly, well, what appeared to be a lot of thinking and reflecting. There was some slightly sort of at times glazed over looks, as I think there's some reflection happening, which I take as a positive. But I think the group seemed to generally be able to relate to the example that we use, the one about the failing business. And there were some nice sort of insights, sort of an idea shared, about the actions that were taken and people could relate, the thinking process, and as well as the feelings. And what was quite nice is there seemed to be a lot that was sort of shared amongst the different individuals. There's certainly a lot of head nodding as different people were talking. I think what is quite clear is, obviously we know the time is quite short and there's a lot to kind of process. And I think a sort of a space to just unpack this in a bit more detail would be hugely helpful. Sort of break it down step by step, sort of break down the concepts, and then sort of work from it, work through it from there would be very helpful. But some of the feedback was just, in terms of just reflecting on the session, was just that, we need to sort of listen to our feelings more, because they certainly play a role interfering in what we do and how we do. And then also this idea that, we spend a lot of time in our thinking head, and we spend a lot of time rationalizing our feelings as opposed to sort of listening to them or really sort of embracing them. So I think, those are the sort of two sort of key things that really stood out for us. But I think there's definitely a need to sort of just break this down in a bit more detail, and just sort of get a stronger sort of grip on what this actually means.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lloyd. That was 3 minutes exactly.
So Lloyd, have I captured it, the essence?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. Who's next?
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, so for my group, people spoke about when we got down to the fears that people spoke about, fear was actually something that everybody could relate to. Some people spoke about fear that actually led to opportunities. There was also frustration, and then we looked at how people identified with that fear. And then we also had a comment around understanding values and belief systems. And then I think we also had a very nice discussion around what people felt that they needed from forums like this. And people liked the community, having a place to engage with, a safe place. I think the words that actually came through was creating a trusted, safe, and supportive space for entrepreneurs to engage. And then also looking at how do entrepreneurs survive going forward, and to look at opportunities for themselves. So we also had a comment around being able to be grounded. So, I think it was also testament to the experience that we had now, being able to understand your own emotions and how that relates to your thought processes and behaviors. So yes, that was short and sweet from my side.
Cool. Who's next?
I'm talking here. Melissa, are you happy with Craig's notes there? And I was muted. Happiness. Okay, excellent. Nick.
Hi. Okay. My group, or our group, was the best group. We were so it's very mature people. It was awesome. We talked a lot about the mindset, that connection between the feeling, the action, or the feeling, the thought, and the action. The guys were very much aware of that sort of connection. They were good at labeling their feelings and labeling their thoughts. Then they drew the connections of the actions that they needed to do. So there was that self-awareness was very high. There was also a lot of the whole resonate where they found this model could actually it could be used both for your whole entrepreneurial decision making. We had a whole operations manager who said, in a previous life, they would have used this a lot in their operations. And then as well as they felt that it could be used in their more personal life also. So there was a connection between that personal life and the ways that they because that's work. They also felt that there was an awareness around the main topics that we worked on was around that feeling of that inequality, that feeling that you weren't quite good enough to be there. So that was a good like kind of a high topic that resonated with a lot of people. A lot of people either felt they weren't good enough to give a leadership sort of decision or not good enough, but they felt as if they didn't have enough credence to give it. They didn't have that support structure. So support structure and building a good support structure was very important in how they looked at decision making. So those were the key sort of takeaways from it.
Oh, excellent. Nick,
Awesome.
happy with that with the notes there from Craig?
Yeah, he can capitalize needs, support for stuff. Yeah, it's a good. Thanks.
Excellent. In terms of content, thank you very much, Nick. Jacques?
We had a discussion about the problem that George suggested to us. And the original problem statement was how to develop a high-performing team. And what was interesting is that eventually the problem that manifested was something different. So it showed the difference between how one actually experiences a problem, and when we go through a process like this, how it actually then crystallizes to something different. So I think originally George was experiencing internal conversations about the team. So it's a startup team. It's a team that's been working together on a new initiative. But there seems to be a dissipation of energy. And even though a lot of people have done a lot in the past, they're not really there at the moment. So when we started observing the feelings, there was a duality of the confusion about what's happening with the team, but also excitement about the possibility of what this project can deliver. So the interplay between the negative feelings, if I can call it that, and the positive feelings are really impacting the process, and to such an extent that the effects actually have like horses' reins being pulled back in terms of the thoughts that was being restricted, the actions are being restricted. So that is the power of the feelings of things not happening as they should be. So having gone through the process, we got to the point where George said he actually has to make a decision now whether he is the right person to do this and to lead the team, or whether he should step out, or even to say, we need to consider how we take this forward. So that's the power to say we have to make a call now. And then, so on reflection, he indicated that it was very good to step out of the situation and to reflect. So when we're so in the middle of doing things every day to day, that it doesn't help you to solve the problem. So step out, firstly, and create a space where you can share your thinking, your emotions with somebody else, so that you can get clarity, because it goes into a tailspin sometimes. So, that was very good. But he also felt a bit vulnerable to actually have to share this, to come to the point in his mind to say, am I the right person, or can I actually, give it away, so to speak. But it was still his idea, so it's a bit of clarity that needs to happen there. But yeah, and the importance of why, just another day. Yeah, so the importance of why is just like it. Okay.
Okay,
So Jacques, is the why is the why for the individual or for the team, or can you just elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, it was one of the team members that said it just shows the importance of why the importance of why for the team, but also for the person. So it plays both ways. In this case, the entrepreneur needs to say, why am I doing this? And can I do it in a better and a less
Cool.
training way?
Excellent. Jacques, does that summarize the feedback you gave? The notes?
Yeah.
I've got a question that came in from Sam McDonald. Do we think that everyone can be an entrepreneur? And Craig, I'm going to, if I answer that question, I've got only one statement, and that's yes, but I'm going to hand that to Craig.
Sam, absolutely. I do believe that that is the case. Look, I think it's important to, get your head clear on why you're trying to be an entrepreneur. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have is the entrepreneurs who do it out of necessity. So if you're doing it because of absolute necessity, then you're in a different place to somebody who's explored their purpose, found their own passion and why, and is looking to solve a bigger problem for the greater good, or for a tribe or a bigger community. That would be in a different place. The people who are doing it out of necessity are typically driven, I guess, by fear, so that then puts them on the back foot straight away. But at the end of the day, I mean, it reminds me of a book called The Creative Curve that elaborates on how anybody can be creative. And similarly, I believe anybody can be an entrepreneur. Anybody want to add to that?
Yes. Any comments, any statements, any additions, any disagreements with that?
So I'm not sure if I can talk, or should I use the chat?
You can talk, yes.
Can I talk? I just wanted to say, Craig, that for our country, don't you think most of entrepreneurs wouldn't have that luxury to explore their why and their MTP? But it would start more from, I have a problem.
I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, in our situation, many people are coming from a place of fear and necessity. But I mean, so the story that comes to mind is I went to the Singularity South Africa Summit last year, and a lot of the material I'm familiar with because I follow abundance thinking and exponential organizations and exponential transformation and all that kind of stuff that is making technology cheaper and cheaper and more accessible. And in fact, many things are being democratized in the broadest sense. So easy to access, easy to use, etc. When you come from that place of fear, you're not aware of the extent to which, exponential possibility is there. So I left Singularity and I was nuts driving down Rivonia Road. There's a guy with a board that says, I've got a BSc computer science and I can't find work. And that's what made me think that we really need to democratize entrepreneurship and spread the word of the art of the possible, and how accessible things are becoming. So Google Loon has already piloted in KZN free internet. That has other implications, like they obviously want to use your data, but when you've got free internet, you're getting closer to having free education because you can access all the stuff that's on YouTube and on the internet, etc. I can go on. Shall I?
And we don't have time.
Okay.
What we are doing, we are making notes around the questions and so on. I just want to quickly also, Sam further elaborated. So maybe, can everyone be a successful entrepreneur? The short answer to that is yes. Unfortunately, we don't have time. However, there are key characteristics, key pathways that we need to understand, know how to work through that, know and understand what our development areas are, what our strengths are. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with the framework we are introducing. And then also, Sam further says, I guess we can, we take it back to the barter system. And there's some interesting conversations, again, we can have around that.
I'm going to pick up on that one very quickly. So that's kind of exactly what we're trying to do in this community, is create that safe place, but also create the spirit of sharing and guiding and helping as much as possible, you know. So really understanding people's challenges. I mean, that's why we've had 2 of these mindset sessions, because mindset has come out as a critical success factor for entrepreneurship. So, you know, and really getting to the heart of what can help people move the needle forward to accelerate their own opportunity to revenue. But at the same time, you know, giving people in this community the opportunity to share in revenue. So by, for example, doing referrals, we will create the mechanisms for you to get some revenue, and so on. There's a whole lot of other stuff happening behind the scenes, which we'll elaborate on.
Great, thanks for that. So there's some other questions coming in. We are unfortunately out of time. You know,
Well, shall we talk about next steps quickly?
Yes, I'm getting there.
Yeah, sorry.
So I just wanted to, Francois, I would like Lloyd and myself to get in contact with you, especially because what Francois was highlighting there is that we mustn't forget, again, and this is what Lloyd kept on pointing out to us, we must remember there's an individual behind this entrepreneur. And it's so essential, an individual with dependents, a family, etc. So in terms of our next steps, before we go there, there's also questions about what are our next steps, because this was very valuable. I'm going to ask Craig to respond to that, but before we do that, just quickly thank you to these great people for running with us so far, and some of them aren't here today, but we've been supported by an exceptional team who's been volunteering their time to help us democratize entrepreneurship. It's the book that Lloyd wrote. You can go and buy it on Amazon, and the core fundamentals of me, us, and them, very valuable, and that really drove the conversation today. Craig, I want you to talk about our immediate next step in August, please. I'm going to leave this slide on here so that everybody can read that, but what's happening in August, Craig?
Okay, so we're launching a couple of free assessments. So we want to explore all of the pathways. And there'll be assessments for each pathway so that you can get a better sense of, you know, where you're tripping up and where you might need help. So as Liesl pointed out, this is all on a voluntary basis at this point, and we must mention the contribution that Emma's made from One Circle HR. She did a great pitch last week, and there's a video on that as well. And there's a YouTube channel which we'll share with you as well, where we're putting up all these recordings in a summarized way. And then we're also, following on from the assessments, we're launching more comprehensive diagnostics so that we can really help people to, you know, understand their perspective, understand their inhibitors, and progress. And then we're also launching the fundamentals of the entrepreneurial brain, which will be a little bit of training on each of the pathways. That's going to launch on the Thinkific platform. And as I said, as a participant in this community, you'll be able to recommend that stuff and get referral revenue. And we're looking for other ways to create opportunities for people to get affiliate and referral and that type of revenue. So we're exploring that and how that'll work. But essentially, I'm imagining a massive affiliate program that everybody can benefit from. And if you actually contribute to some of the courseware, or, you know, some of the workshops, etc., that you can actually benefit from that as well. So we've got leaders for some of the pathways. We're missing leaders for some of the other pathways. So if you're interested in getting more involved and really, you know, driving the concept of democratizing entrepreneurship, please let Liesl and myself know. That's it from me. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been awesome. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was useful for you.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. There is a point about our email addresses. Now, it is correct. Come in, I will send an email directly to you. to make sure that you have the right email address. So it is lizel@exofutures.africa, and it's Craig@exofutures.africa. It should be working.
And then, and then Sam, absolutely, I'll share the Miro link to the board where the framework exists. So you're free to use and abuse it, but keep us posted on what you find and how it works for you.
I think Sam might also be referring to the tool that was used during
the ATF tool as well, of course. Yeah.
We will be sharing the ATF tool with you. We'll be sharing the link to last week's recording with Emma, and we'll be sharing the recordings and feedback and summarize all the next steps. We've abused you. We're 4 minutes over time. We are very grateful for your time today and for your participation. And I just want to add to this. Craig spoke a lot about how we can benefit from the model, but this is for you, the working entrepreneur and the intrapreneur. And we're going to focus in future also on the people who want to become entrepreneurs as well. So all of this work we're doing is for you, the entrepreneur, to help you become a successful entrepreneur. And please talk to us and give us feedback. Have a wonderful rest of Friday and enjoy your weekends.